Folks, I'm tired. I set out on this journey to do a podcast a while back, and I'm annoyed at myself because I have not posted a podcast in a couple months. It is late October. I haven't posted one since August, and I had even taken the summer off before that. Now, I know no one's losing sleep over this. I would imagine no one is out there saying, Jeff, I've really feel like I've been missing out on parts of my life because you haven't posted a podcast. I realize that that is not what's happening. However, do you ever set out on a new challenge of something that you want to do that you just want to, push yourself and say, I want to start a new hobby or whatever, and then you don't do it or you prolong it or you do parts of it and you take long periods of time off? That's me right now with this podcast. And the real issue that's going on, I've actually been suffering from something called I.B.T. And so I.B.T is a little thing called indecision, busyness, and tiredness. And that's what I've had. I'm sure you've all suffered with it too. And we're going to break this down. This is How to Speak Nebraskan. Okay, let me talk for a little bit about I.B.T. So again, indecision, busyness, and tiredness. This is a real thing that we all have. We have busy lives. In fact, some people might just refer to it as adulting. I wouldn't call I.B.T. It sounds like a real diagnosis, doesn't it? But hey, it's a real thing. I wouldn't call this an actual just adulting because it's just a function of adulting. In life, we have issues where we have to make important decisions. We have busy schedules, and we also deal with being tired, right? And so we have all of these different things, and so I have had that. So you know what I've done? I've got my little notes and everything, and I'm gonna talk about this here just for a little bit because uh, you know, indecision, starting to break down I.B.T here. So, indecision is something that we all kind of have. And, I don't know about you, but sometimes indecision can be a little bit paralyzing. There's this person that I actually just spoke to recently at work who was saying that they actually lay their clothes out every Sunday for the entire week. And they do meal prep for the entire week for like lunch and dinner, and they don't want to have to make any decisions. They want to limit their capacity to make decisions in the week because that way it's just that much closer to the week, and they don't have to make any decisions day to day or fewer decisions day to day because there's already enough decisions, I guess is what they were kind of getting at. That's not me. I'm not one that's going to lay my clothes out for an entire week. That's just not really how I roll. But I will say this. I've always appreciated small menus at restaurants. That's actually why I really like Chipotle. I like Chipotle. One, I do think the food is really good. And two, they have a small menu. It's just literally like, do you want a rice or burrito? What kind of meat do you want? And then add your veggies or cheese or salsa or whatever you're going to do. Very simple, very straightforward, and very good. And I appreciate that. Go to a restaurant when there's a whole bunch of options. Sometimes I struggle because I'm kind of in between a few things and I can't really decide. And so, I'm not talking so much about the day-to-day decisions that we all do, but we do have a lot of things that we have to a lot of things that we want to work on. And sometimes in this podcast, I tell myself, oh, I'm gonna get to my podcast later because it's sort of always there. I finally got my little fancy microphone set up here. I got the headphones. I'm excited. I got my little podcast office. Someday I need to show you like this entire room. I kind of actually the background here is probably the most boring wall in here, but it's a map of Nebraska. I need to fancy this background up for anybody who's actually watching. If you're listening, sorry, you don't know what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, I think about this podcast actually pretty much every day. And you wouldn't think that given that I haven't posted a podcast in a long time. But part of it comes from I.B.T, starting with the indecision. Again, being kind of indecisive over what is it I want to get out of this weekend? What is it I want to do? Do I want to wake up on a Saturday morning and go for a run? Do I want to read? Do I want to relax? Do I want to go walk the dog? Do I want to work here on this podcast? Sometimes there's other kind of big decisions or big things I want to work on. Do you ever have kind of those ambitious goals that you have for yourself that you never really get to, or you get to it so slowly? Does anybody else want to write a book out there? I do. I want to write a book. And I know I'm not the only one. I've heard other people say this before, but only so many people actually do it because you have to sit down and do it. And every once in a while, I'll get this like little itch and I'll kind of scrabble down some things because I kind of know like what I sort of would want to do. But the actual work ethic of it is a lot. And so If I'm doing that, I could be working on this podcast, or I could be working on a book, or I could be doing some other kind of big things out there too. So that is a difficult thing. I think anytime in life you're dealing with like one of those real big decisions, that can be hard. Sometimes a big decision is like huge in terms of like getting a new job, or if you're going to move, or something along those lines. So indecision is something that can bog all of us down. I had a friend once that I worked with, who we were in this office together, and we were very busy doing all sorts of different things, and we kind of felt like we couldn't accomplish some of the things we wanted to because everything was just sort of labeled as a priority. And my friend said something to me that always kind of stuck out. And I don't know if he came up, I don't think he came up with this, but he sort of is the first one that heard me say it. So I always think of this person. He said, when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. Again, you can't make everything be the that first thing that you want to do. And I run into that sometimes with this podcast, as I sort of I'm trying to prioritize too many things. Sometimes it's like on a weekend of getting household chores done, wanting to go for a run, wanting to do this. All good things, nothing is bad, but then it's just easy to like put this off. I'll just get to it later. And so when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And so I think that's can be a difficult thing, and so part of this indecision that you deal with is what's going to sometimes kind of bog you down. So IBT, indecision. The second thing, busyness. Do you all feel busy? Now, I'll just say this. I Everyone's in a different stage in life in terms of where you're at with your age and your job and your family dynamics and all of those different things too. Most people I know who have a full-time job and a family feel really busy. All right. And I would fall into that category. I have a family, wife, and two kids, and I have a full-time job. It's a pretty busy job. So does my wife. She's got a busy job too. So what's hard is even when you're not busy, you're busy like thinking about what you're going to do when you are busy, right? You're kind of thinking about the next thing. Your mind is a little bit occupied, even if you're maybe not necessarily busy in that moment. And so, hopefully you get lucky enough to get a little bit of downtime, but then you want to like embrace the downtime even because you have to have downtime once in a while. So, I don't listen to a lot of other podcasts. I listen to a few periodically. I'm not, some people are a little surprised the fact that I do this little podcast. They think that I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a few periodically. I don't listen to one every single day. I don't even, sometimes I'll even go maybe a week or a couple weeks and I may not listen to one, or I'll only listen to like a couple episodes kind of here and there. And so I have a few that I enjoy. But here's the thing, what I've noticed, the podcasts that I like the most are fairly popular podcasts, like national podcasts that are out there. And the people that do them, they do a really good job, otherwise they wouldn't be popular. And I mean, I enjoy them. That's why I listen to them. But here's what I've noticed. Other people that I listen to on podcasts don't have a busy 40-hour a work, a 40-hour a week job for work. And I've noticed that. And so I have these people out there that I'm listening to and I enjoy kind of what I'm hearing. And sometimes I'm kind of like, oh man, I kind of want my show to be more like that. I want my podcast to sort of resemble more of this. But then I do have to tell myself, Jeff, it's okay. I am busy. I have a busy job. I enjoy it. Again, I recruit students at the university for the College of Engineering is what I do. I enjoy it very much. But it does keep me on my toes, pretty much year round. I mean, like any job, it ebbs and flows with being more busy sometimes and less busy at others, but like it's never really not busy for me. And so yeah, you do that. You got kids, you come home, you do dinner, dishes. My wife and I, we walk our dog most evenings. Sometimes my kids got activities, got things going on, and it's tough. And so, you can kind of run into that. So I think about these folks out there, these popular podcasts that talk about their golf game, or they talk about, oh yeah, I dropped my kids off and then I went to the gym and did this and that too. And I'm like, you went to the gym after you dropped your kids off at school, like wow, that sounds like a really nice thing to do. That can be difficult when you're kind of balancing your time with all of that stuff too. So, it's busyness, it's a real thing. Some of the folks out there, if we compare ourselves, that they're good for them. The big time podcasters, they might be famous, they might be, just kind of well known of whatever it is too. And what I've found is that those folks usually are famous and they make a lot of money and they don't work 40-hour-a-week jobs. And I think, yeah, I think I've got it pretty good. Well, yeah, I'm just kidding. Sometimes I get a little jealous, but we all can kind of get there. You know what else they have that I don't have is a podcast editor. I've actually been asked by some people, Jeff, do you edit your own podcasts? I don't do a ton of editing on this. I do some, and there's these things don't completely make themselves. But no, I do not. I do not hire it out. I do not pay anyone else to do it. I really hope for at some point I could. That would be really cool. But right now, that's not really kind of in the plans too. So, life can be busy. And here's the other issue. You go to work, you get home, you do your thing, dinner, hanging out, whatever, you got stuff with the kids, you're kind of seeing people in your family and doing whatever. Here's the problem. You get through all of that and you finally have some downtime. And this would be a time where I would maybe come to work on my podcast. That's actually what I'll do a lot of the time is I kind of in the evening, I'll come down here. I'm in my basement. You do that. But there's a problem because that's when you run into the third part of IBT, tiredness. So sometimes I'm indecisive. Sometimes I'm just really busy. And then if I'm not either one of those things, I'm tired. Okay. So, I opened up with this. I said, folks, I'm tired. I haven't posted this podcast in a long time. When I was kind of collecting my thoughts on this, tiredness was probably the number one thing that I thought of in terms of like kind of kicking myself. I'm like, gosh, why did I start this podcast and I'm not even doing anything lately? Sometimes I can't tell the cause of my tiredness. Do you guys sometimes have those weeks where in the evening you're just like really tired at the end of the day, like after work or whatever, and you're just like you can't decide if you want to go take a nap or if you want to kind of like wait so that way you can go to bed at a decent time or whatever. It can be really difficult to know. I can't decide if I'm literally just crushing it that much at work where I'm putting all this brain power into what I'm doing some days. Or some days I'm really on the go if it's a day where I have to walk around a lot. So you get days like that too. Or maybe it's just the fact that I'm over 40 years old. So sometimes you're kind of like, okay, age catches up with you. It'll do that too. But then you get into this fall and you've got colder weather, darker evenings and all that. That can maybe lead to it a little bit too. So, we have all these dreams of things we want to do. We're busy. We have some things of work. Okay, finally the indecision. I finally decided this is what I'm going to kind of work on for right now or on this thing. I finally found time to do it in my busy schedule. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself saying, I'm so tired. And so, I think that can be a little bit difficult. Um, so here's another kind of observation I've had lately. Do you ever wake up in the mornings, and you just kind of feel like death? That is the worst. You ever have it where your alarm goes off and you're just laying there and your body is like in this kind of half like sleep paralysis position where you're just like stiff and you're just like the thought of moving is like scratching fingernails down a chalkboard. It's just like the worst thing ever. You have to just peel yourself out of bed, roll out and get ready to start your day. There's no better way to do it than when you know what the first thing is you're going to do. And so, you kind of roll out and everything too. Sometimes you'll see other people sleeping. You ever have it like where you see your kids asleep or, your spouse or or my dog. Actually, my dog's a great example. I see my dog Oreo sleeping and I'll go see him kind of in the mornings. He's kind of like laying on the floor there on his little dog pillow and he's just breathing so deep. And it's so cute to see your dog breathing so deep and all of that too. And on one hand, I'm kind of slightly jealous, and on the other hand, I'm just kind of like, well, good for him. He's in a happy place, And so we can do that too. And so it can be a really tough thing sometimes to when you're tired. What I found with myself lately is again, you get through the evening, you're busy with stuff and all of that. And I have had that issue where what happens sometimes when I finally kind of at night, yeah, like I said, if we have dinner, do dishes, walk the dog, whatever, maybe run around a little bit, whatever it is we're gonna do, and then I sit down on the couch. And that feeling when you just sit down and you relax and you're in maybe the TV's on and it may or may not be something you're really into. You might be a show that's fun, maybe not, maybe you get on your phone. And sometimes that moment you sit on your couch, like the night is done. Like it's like I want to get up and I want to do something, but I am so comfortable here. My body is kind of turning into the sedentary state that I do not want to get up. I've had more and more of that lately where you just kind of sit and you just the kind of that laziness and the relaxing. I don't know if laziness is a good word if you've worked all day, but it is kind of that if you're hoping to do something, but just whatever you want to call it, that resting kind of position, it's just really hard to peel yourself even off the couch. And then you got to go and you got to get ready for bed and do all of that too. So it can be really hard to get the motivation. So there you have it. That's where I'm at right now. As I look back on my last couple of podcasts, I've actually talked about how I've prolonged this on a couple other podcasts. So I'm not going to be doing that on the next one. In fact, I'll be having a couple other episodes coming up, which are exciting because I just interviewed somebody recently and I got a couple other things kind of lined up here soon as well. Um, but IBT, indecision, busyness, and tiredness. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't leave here without a couple of these notes in front of me to say what I think we can kind of get out of this because to be honest, I have no solution for it. I didn't come here to say, here's how to be better at making decisions. Here's how to be better at when you're busy. Here's how to be better with your tiredness. I do not have solutions for you. I'm here to relate to you and I'm here to say, this is what I've got. You've probably got it too. We all have our own little coping strategies and mechanisms we use for everything all the time. And also, it's kind of just part of life, right? Doing all of these things. But I did, as I was kind of jotting down these thoughts, I did kind of remember sort of a couple things that this idea of IBT, do you like it? I'm so excited that I came up with this. So I know it's kind of lame, but that's okay. Um, all these things are actually kind of a gift. And because the reality is, if you're having issues with indecision, the idea is actually, in theory, it means you have decisions, right? And not everybody always has decisions. And it could be like the really big, deep decisions in life, again, of do I take on a new job that or move somewhere or anything like that, or people in relationship, situations too. Those can be really major decisions that you know are going to impact your life. And so having decisions like that can be very stressful, but also it can help you in making decisions. I remember the hardest decision I ever made at a younger age was when I went to college. I was in ROTC for 2 years, and I loved being in it. I learned a lot. I kind of had this idea of service is a good thing and the military service, but kind of just for a variety of reasons of having an undeclared major because I was undecided on my major when I first started college, and not knowing what I wanted to do, I had a really hard time deciding if I wanted to stick with it in ROTC. And I will say at that stage in my life, it was by far the hardest decision I'd ever made. It's a big decision to do the military or to not do the military. I mean, think about it. That really charts a different course in your life, as for sure for the first several years after college. And then eventually it'll actually have that compounding effect where it'll kind of impact the rest of your life. There's not a bad decision. It's a big decision. And so you have to decide what's best for you. And that was really tough, but I learned a lot about myself through that process. And I also learned a lot about myself, like how it was kind of the first step in learning how I can help myself make big decisions when those big decision moments in life sometimes arise. So it really is kind of a gift, even though it doesn't really feel like it at the time. Busyness is the same way. Busyness really is actually a gift. Sometimes it's stressful, but you have a job, and hopefully, if you have a job, full-time job, hopefully it's one that you enjoy. Hopefully it's one that you get fulfillment out of. I don't know many people that have a job that they think is perfect. I don't know many people that, one of the things that drives me a little crazy is some people will say, if you have a job you love, then you'll never have to go to work every day because every time you go to work, you love it so much you don't feel like you're going to work. I really envy the people who feel that way. That is great. I really enjoy my job a lot for a lot of reasons. I could go on and on about that. But I do feel like I'm going to my job every day. I do feel like I'm going to work. And sometimes I look forward to going to work. It's sometimes it's a responsibility that I'm thankful for, and I really appreciate, getting up and being like, oh, this is, it's going to be a good day, and I have a positive attitude, but I don't I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you'll never feel like you're going to work if you love your job. No, it's not quite like that. I definitely feel like I'm going to work. And I don't know that I know hardly anyone that doesn't maybe feel like they're going to work, even if they enjoy their job. And I hope they do. But it is a gift. If you enjoy what you do and it fulfills you, just remember that that busyness can be a good thing, even though it can be hard to squeeze things in into life. And being tired, mostly I'm just tired in the evening after a busy day at work. And what's wrong with that, right? And you're busy because your kids got activities or you volunteer for an organization or you do whatever it is. And I will just say this. After a good day's work, after you've gone and done your thing and you've come home and you put in um I'll go old school, an honest day's work, right? Well, when you do that, think about that feeling when you're going to bed. Like, tell me that's not a good feeling, right? I mean, you hit that point in the evening, whatever time it is, it's maybe 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock. It comes at a different time for everybody, right? The older you get, the earlier it probably comes a little bit. When you're just like, you're feeling your eyes get heavy and you're just kind of like, you can't decide like what to do. Do I go to bed now? Do I wait a little bit longer so I can sleep good? Whatever that kind of thing is. But you hit that point in the evening where you're just like, oh my gosh, now it's time. Like I need to get ready for bed. I need to go brush my teeth. I need to do my thing. And then whatever is your pre-bedtime routine, whether you watch TV or read or whatever, but just that moment you turn the light off, you sink into your bed. Oh man, you want to talk about a good feeling? That's a good feeling. And you can just kind of like drift off. That is such a good feeling. It's a gift. It's a gift when you get that, even though being tired can be annoying sometimes. But when you can do that and then just kind of go to sleep and be in a and be at your hopefully in your home safe environment, and all of that too, that can be a great thing. So I like to think that this new diagnosis that I've had of IBT is solvable, is curable, and everything. But again, it's not. It's part of life. It's part of adulting. All of these things: indecision, busyness, and tiredness. And so, wherever you're at in your life with your version of IBT, because most people have are dealing with all of these things at various points in time to varying degrees too. I hope you can embrace it. Embrace the IBT in your life as you navigate your chart and navigate your path on everything that you've got going on too with indecision, busyness, and tiredness. And so, with that, have a good one. Have fun with your IBT. This is How to Speak Nebraskan.